every time this kind of like conversation comes up, I feel the urge and instinct to like try and relate it back to the structural. It's like because no one does that.
Yeah.
But it's always
muting and stuff like that type of thing.
You said what?
Like mute R. Kelly, that type of idea, or are you just speaking
no.
like installation of abuse, that kind of thing.
The organization of the whole entertainment industry, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's like, okay, like you can. There's the individual. We're talking about individual people doing fucked up things. It's like, okay, well, what did they do? And okay, it's not a one-off thing. It's actually a fucking. This happens all the time everywhere. And it's like, okay, what is allowing and enabling this to happen? And then people will go, oh, it was his manager. Oh, it was his friend. Oh, it was this other artist. Oh, it was whatever. And it's like, okay, yes, these individuals are like implicit, like this is all like complicit in this situation. But let's look at the power dynamics and the social organization that all of them were inside of, and let's look at the motivations like of all of the people inside of that, and then how the structure is accommodating to those motivations, that being money and whatever. So it's like, and then it's like, okay, so what we're really talking about, like, and people will say, oh, it's a systemic issue. It's systemic. It's systemic. It's systemic.
They'll never dive in beyond
that. They never dive in beyond that. It's kind of just like, well, that's where we end it, folks. Have a good night, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I feel like that's actually the most important part. It's like, why are all of us gathered together in this context? What are we trying to do? And like, how does it operate? And then in how it operates, how do these people they're not enabled, they're almost, not even almost, they're emboldened. They're like, it's reinforced.
Right.
You know, there's like a whole, it's actually just like, go ahead. Actually, I'll bring people to you. Go ahead. Because it could be an in for me. This could be an in for me.
That word systemic, I feel like, has mythologized the whole process to such a degree. That
It's like right. It's deep, but it's not that deep, actually.
Right. We're like, you got
it's literally this. Like, this is how this fucked up shit happened. This right here, like this triangle, this pyramid. That is how it happened. Right. That's how it happened.
Where you got people at the top of this fucking hierarchy like, yeah, it's a systemic issue. You know, we can't really get to the bottom of it. You're at the fucking bottom of it. You are it. What do you mean? It's like
you're at the root of the fucking thing. You're at the top of the pyramid.
It's like the fact that it is like a broad, complicated, complex issue doesn't mean there aren't like people you can point to that are at these certain nexuses of it. Right. I'm just like, there are individuals who perpetuate this shit within a framework and with the motivation of money, resources, connections, clout, whatever the fuck. You know, it's like,
but it's carrying the conversation. It's like, what is the alternative? To this. Yeah. And like, how would it keep rapists and abusers and fucking authoritarian ass people from getting in the place to do what they've fucking done?
Right.
And we've just so happened to catch, you know, a select few and put them on blast. And then you just, in the quote unquote best of cases, you just swap in someone else, put them in the same position. Maybe you open up a new office, a new corner, corner in the business where they can a new committee oversight, you know, advisory board or some shit like that. But it's like, as long as the pyramid stays intact, folks, right? Okay. And that voice is the voice of the bosses and the shareholders and the rapists and the whatever. It's like, just keep the overall thing intact. It's like, well, what if everybody pulled out?
Right. As long as I have no accountability to anybody except making sure they get their money. As long as I don't have to take any type of responsibility for any type of actions, and there's always a person above me who I can deflect to if you come to me with any problems, with any type of issues. And as long as comedians perpetuate this narrative that cancel culture is a real problem, when in reality it's the system that we all aspire to, and the systems that force us into these aspirations, these bourgeoisie aspirations. How long can I? How long do I have to do this? I was like, how long do I have to keep this up? How long do I have to? But no, man, it's like
aspire though. That's that's the word
the aspiration, and
stood out to me.
And as far as the specifics of the entertainment industry, I feel like there are two things. Like with comedians, that narrative that cancel culture is the root of all this shit, all these problems. It's like, I understand it feels, it sucks to build a whole career and then have it pulled out from under you because you made quote unquote one mistake. It's usually a lot more than that, but we don't have to get into that. Let's say it really was one mistake. Right. Like to have your whole career pulled out from under you for that reason, sure, it sucks. I can imagine that. But maybe ask yourself why there's a system where you have to entertain people or die or lose everything. Right. You know, you have no foundation beneath the shit that you had to build for yourself. Maybe ask yourself why it had to be so hard coming up that you now make it harder for other people to get where you're at because it threatens your status, and because we have this like stupid moralistic attachment to struggle where comedy has to be hard. Something as supposedly fun as comedy has to be the hardest shit that you've ever done in your life, when like audiences already make it hard. Why do we have to make the shit hard for each other? We could just fucking build each other up and to where we have a safety net where that's not a fucking problem. Because the fact of the matter is, once you get to that point, the people around you support you anyway. Yeah. So maybe it doesn't have to be a whole systemic thing where you're now forced into people's faces because, I gotta feed my kids. You taking food out my daughter's mouth. You taking food off my baby's plate. Just cause I said my gay fans don't have AIDS or whatever the fuck the baby said. It's like we don't have to, we don't have to do all that shit. So, and I'm sorry, but the second point there is like, you also have like this aspirational element where everybody in the stand-up world that's not in the proper entertainment world has this aspiration to get into that part of it. Right. And then once you get there, like I'm in WGA, I'm in SAG, and they have these season by season pay bumps, at least in the Writers Guild. SAG doesn't really do a whole lot. But you have these, every season of a show, you get a title bump and you get a pay bump. And it's like, it kind of creates this bubble where you cross over and you immediately don't have the same incentives as the rest of your peers. Right. And then... Wow.
Just creatively, your shit is fucked up. Not fucked up, but
not even creatively.
Different incentive to be creative.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so you have that system that propels you into aspiration, whether you have that internalized feeling or not. And so you're kind of like, I don't give a fuck what happens. Next season I'm going to be a story editor. I'm going to be an executive story editor. Right. I'm going to be a co-producer or whatever. And so like it necessarily bumps you out of kind of quote unquote working class status or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't but it just kind of puts you in a position where you're just necessarily isolated from the people around you, and you just immediately lose all those interests, and it's this sort of the same, like in an even more like minute kind of way of like the way the Oscars were invented to keep actors from being parts of workers' movements. You know what I'm saying? Right. To like you get your little trinket. You get to be part of the elite. A little bit at a time. Yeah. Maybe eventually you'll get to the top. If you get another job, you'll get to the top. Isn't that nice? Right. Isn't that nice? Don't think about how it's structured or the things that it perpetuates. You don't have to worry about all that. You get to be a co-producer on Big Mouth.